So, Berto, I thought we would respond to some patron emails. What do you say?
That sounds like a wunderbar idea.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I am a therapist, and I am also a professor, and I'm also a podcaster.
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and you know those little lines that divide roads? Like, you know, there's two lanes, and you see the little lines in the middle? I evaluate the accuracy of those lines.
Do you get paid to do that?
It's more of a hobby right now, but I'm hoping to make it into a career.
All right. Well, you got to have your dreams, and I encourage you to chase those dreams. All right. This first email is from patron Aiden. Aiden writes, I've deleted friends and pages from my social media on either end of the political spectrum. Do you think it's bad or good to remove people from social media that you disagree with politically or view-wise? Is it good for me, or am I just creating an echo chamber? Berto, what do you think?
Echo. Yeah, this is a tough one. I think a lot of us are dealing with this situation lately, maybe as the giver or the receiver or both. And I think to take a page out of your book, out of your yearbook, I would say that it might be healthier to not have something that is making you stressed so constantly. And so you can choose how to maybe remove that stress. You could either maybe just not frequent the site yourself, or you could remove someone if just you don't want to see those kinds of posts. Now, as to the question of like, is that put you in an echo chamber? Well, it sort of does, but it's an echo chamber of less stress. So it's like a choice you got to make.
But what if someone said that's just putting your head in the sand, and if the truth is stressful, shouldn't you at least know about it and respond to it? What would you say?
You know, I grew up in a time where Colombia was under a lot of strife. If you watched Narcos, this is the time when Escobar was basically had the country by the jugular, and it was juggling the jugular of the juggly country. And you know, the evening news was traumatizing on a daily basis. So I watched my father, for example, watch the news and yell at the TV and yell at the presenters and yell and just get so angry. So was it healthy for him to be informed about everything that was happening? He wasn't doing anything about it other than yelling and getting angry. Now, maybe if this had been a rallying cry for him to go join a movement or try to run for office or do something, maybe that would have been a good trigger. But then I have a feeling that if he had been involved in something like that, he probably would have had a lot less time to sit there watching the TV and yelling at the TV. So I mean, I had the same situation happen to me when, you know, like, for example, I got really addicted to the OJ trial, and I would remember being so angry. How can they not see the obvious? And I remember being super addicted to news when 9/11 happened, and I remember just sitting there looking at the news and, oh, so angry.
So with all those hours and all that time, did that benefit you or society at all?
No.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Right. So the question really, I think everyone should be asking, that no one is asking, that I am aware of, is how can I contribute to society?
Right.
And what the marketers want you to believe, what the advertisers want you to believe, what CNN wants you to believe, what Facebook news feeds want you to believe, is that by paying attention to those things, you are contributing to society.
Like or dislike.
Right. Newsflash, you're not contributing to society by watching CNN.
Right.
It's not. You're informed about what CNN is trying to pump into your head that sells advertising, and you're also being sold advertising, by the way.
Right.
And you're being sold a product. They're trying to sell you on watching a channel or a show.
And I will even go further in one regard, which is that, let's pretend for a second there was a channel that was fully for nonprofit, right? And it was really for nonprofit.
Yeah.
And
there probably are, and no one watches it.
Right. And let's say that this channel, all it did was show you tragic events happening from around the world.
Well,
okay.
All
right.
But to me, you've already defined it as the CNN of the world.
Well, I'm just saying, but they're just not trying to sell. There's no ads. They don't make money.
But you understand, like, what they choose to air is, you know, if it's just tragedies and disasters around the world, then they've already narrowed the field of focus to an extremely...
Right. And what I'm getting at is I still don't think that would be healthy for you, even though there's no advertising.
Absolutely.
That's my point.
Well, but you've basically just created a nonprofit
No.
follows the CNN model.
But there's a reason for bringing this example up. And because someone could say, but don't you need the news?
Right. Well, so let me answer that question. It's just like, what is the news actually? So again, what the marketers would like you to believe, or even the nonprofits would like you to believe, it's not like I'm a president of a nonprofit. We think about marketing. We're not. I don't get paid any money for being on the board of this, and I never will. But we absolutely are trying to get people to pay attention to us. By the way, it's called Game to Grow, and it uses tabletop gaming for helping communities and people to better their social skills and their lives.
This is making me stressed.
Yeah. But anyway, the notion that paying attention to what marketers are trying to shove down your throats that they call news contributes to society is 100% false. Now, should you be aware of some things? Yes. But in as much as it helps you to contribute to society. Now, what some people will say is, well, my voting helps me contribute to society. And I would say absolutely. But the idea that marketers are the best people to give you information that will help you vote is ridiculous. And what creates our political system, and really our political system for decades, perhaps centuries, has been, it's not like people are stupid today. People have been wrapped up in news and sensationalism since the beginning of our political system. So it's
way before. This is part of why I'm trying to remove the marketers from the equation, because the idea of why the marketers are putting the kind of things they put on is not their preference. It's what sells.
Exactly. 100%.
Right. And the reason it sells is because, unfortunately, we humans have a fascination with certain kinds of things.
Right. Not with what's pertinent.
Right. So if I'm sitting there and I turn on the channel and it says, and there's some guy talking in a monotone voice about how, hey, so the latest street repairs might cost us 50% more than last quarter. And then I was like, ugh. And then I flip the channel and it's like, 20 dead, more news tonight at 11. That my human goes, oh my God, Dad, I could die. I don't want to die. What's happening?
Exactly.
Right.
So I would say, this is me, that we all have a moral responsibility to contribute to society in whatever way that is reasonable and possible given our lives. If you're going through cancer treatment, you're off the hook, that kind of thing. You're raising 10 kids, you're off the hook. But if you have extra time and space, I think we all have a moral responsibility to contribute somehow, particularly for privileged people like you and me.
Imagine if you turn on the evening news, right? Not that I don't think I've watched that quote evening news in like 20 years, but let's say you turn on the evening news, right? And it's actually, all right, tonight we're going to be looking at the latest percentages of the most effective educational techniques as reviewed in the latest academic papers. And we're going to be talking to some experts about the pros and cons of each approach, right, and seeing which voting we should, to try to inform you for the next vote coming up on the... Can you imagine?
I have fantasies about that, Berto. I have fantasies about that at night. Like when I fantasize about things, that's what I think about. I think about like essentially becoming a dictator and saying like, no more media, no more anything. I will now pump into people's homes. Or my hopes is that this is what Obama's Netflix show will be.
Oh, there's a Netflix show?
Or Obama is in talks about doing some kind of show, and I think it's with Netflix. And my hope is that it will be this. There will be many documentaries, because he's a level-headed guy.
No, dude, it's going to be funded by Soros, and it's going to be trying to get us all to eat soy products and become feminazis.
Women, yeah. And my hope, or whatever the case is that, because even the so-called popular, I don't know, helpful shows like John Oliver and stuff, it's still entertainment, and it still is sensational.
That's why I stopped watching The Daily Show when we were dealing with Iraq and Bush, because I got this sad realization. I was like, wait a minute, this is just a release valve, but this doesn't really help me.
It's it's funny. It's always fun to make fun of people, but it's essentially just, I've talked about this before, essentially just furthers the divide, because every day or every week you have writers who are scrounging for something to make fun of Republicans for, you know? And it's like, sometimes I think it's legit, and sometimes I'm like, I don't think you're really giving it a fair shot here, you know? Anyway, so we all have a moral responsibility to contribute if you have the capacity for that. And for some of us, that means staying up to date on politics. Someone has to pay attention, right? And so for some of us, that's what it means. For some of us, it means being up to date enough that we can vote with some information. And what that can mean is you do not pay attention to any media, that you seek out information like the voters pamphlet, for example. The voters pamphlet that we get, I don't know if other states get it, but we get it, has a lot of information. And then sometimes there's websites in the, you know, the candidate will list the website. I'll go to the website, and
it's like the minimum necessary, given that we get to vote on these big issues. It's like that's the minimum necessary for us to know what the hell we're voting on.
Well, and sometimes it's the best information. You know, it's like it doesn't have all the rig. Now, sometimes I want to go to the Stranger or the Seattle Times or whatever to find out some commentary on it. But at the same time, it's like a lot of times it's pretty easy for me to figure out. Anyway, does it mean contributing to society? Does it mean volunteering for Big Sisters, Big Brothers? Does it mean fighting for a cause? Does it mean seeking out other voices, like trying to understand Republicans, trying to understand Muslims, trying to understand other people of other races or creeds that you don't understand? Does it mean speaking out at a rally? Does it mean going to a rally? Does it mean reaching out to marginalized groups? Does it mean merely loving your neighbor? Is that your way of contributing to society? You know, then that's the way that it is. And the idea that marketers and society and Facebook and the internet has connected staying up to date on Trump tweets equals contributing to society, I think, is the biggest heist that the media has ever done to us.
Yeah, but like you were saying, I mean, this has been building for forever, and certainly escalating in the last few decades, and actually everyone is in the middle of it. Part of the problem is that it's not like two individuals we can point to. It's like, you guys stop it.
No.
Right? It's everyone, all of us. Everyone's in the middle of it.
Everyone.
Yes.
I step out and I try to talk about a level-headed, critical eye on Democrats and Republicans, and everyone hates me.
Well, that's reasonable.
and all I'm trying to do is just like, you know what? Propaganda is being slung in all different directions, and I'm not going to buy any of the fucking hype. And I'm looking at everyone critically, and everyone should be doing that. And then instantly I'm labeled as something, or, you know, anyway. Now, if you want to stay up to date on politics, on how to vote and what's happening in the world and this kind of stuff, there are sources that are, to some extent, could be considered more neutral, more nuanced, provide more level-headed commentary.
That's the part that I think I react sometimes when you try to, and I don't think this is your intention, but if and when it sounds like you're trying to say that nothing or anything could be true and it's all 50-50, everything is a lie.
Never said that.
Right, but sometimes it can feel that way if we're saying, well, we can't trust anything the Democrats say, we can't trust anything the Republicans say, I might as well not trust anything. But the truth is that there's many sources that you could try to trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the average person, like, I don't know, literally everyone I talk to, when they talk with me about politics, I hear the propaganda coming out of their mouth, whether it's on the right or the left. And I instantly, and I've tried to engage in conversations with people on the left and on the right regarding, you know, it's not like it's 50-50. It's not like left and right. It's, you know, I see a vast sea, or say a vast whiteboard of space of things we could be paying attention to. The left and the right, you know, Republicans and Democrats, are paying attention to a tiny little sliver of the corner of the whiteboard. There's this whole other side to things that Democrats and Republicans aren't paying attention to. Both of them aren't paying attention to them. And aren't, you know, and so this idea that somehow the things that propaganda of Republicans and Democrats somehow encompasses reality, and you just have to look to one team or the other to find out how you want to see the world, is ridiculous. There are things that both of them aren't paying attention to at all. I mean, the banking system, the financial system, poor people, people in other countries that are dying from simple things. Democrats and Republicans, both of them couldn't give a shit about that.
Well, but even what you're saying there is, you're making a blanket statement as if there is such a thing as, quote, Democrats and, quote, Republicans, right? But there's a wide range of opinions
as a group
within there.
As a group and as a government of our government, and as a, because it's not like during Obama's administration, somehow all of our problems went away.
Yeah, but like, look, there's many of us that voted for Obama the first time that were quite upset by many things that were happening during his administration, but never felt the country was sort of being flushed. And then yet there were people on the other side that did feel that way, but their reason for feeling that way was based on commentary of the likes of they smell like sulfur. They might, in fact, be the Antichrist.
Well, you're talking about the
not born in this
yeah,
country.
absolutely.
Right?
It's a ridiculous thing, but
Right.
but there are people on, Anyway, my point is, I don't think we're disagreeing. I think my point is that there are sources and there is things to be paying attention to, and I'm here to tell you that there are people paying attention to it and there are people writing about it, but it's not interesting enough and it has nothing to do with Trump. And so no one pays attention to it these days. Anyway, so let's go on. You have any gripes or wrath, Brito?
I do. 1 second. Let me check my gripe folder.
You have a gripe folder?
I have a gripe folder. Okay, so one of them is, I don't know if I used this one before, but okay. So someone says, hey, I went to McDonald's the other day. They are selling fewer nuggets anymore.
Sorry, what?
I went to McDonald's the other day.
This is a friend of yours?
Well, yeah, but the statement itself is irrelevant, but it's like this. It's something along the lines of, I went to the store and, they're selling fewer nuggets anymore, or they're selling fewer RCA cables anymore, or they're selling fewer diesel cars anymore. How does that statement sound to you?
I don't understand the question.
Well, does it sound like a normal statement, like a fine statement?
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, when I hear that, I want to rip my eyes out.
Why?
Probably my ears. Well, because the way I grew up learning English, it would be they are selling fewer nuggets nowadays, or they are no longer selling as many nuggets. Or if you want to use the word anymore, you would say something like, you know what? They're not selling nuggets anymore. But you wouldn't say they are selling fewer nuggets anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That is weird.
But it turns out it's a regional weirdness.
That's a Seattle thing?
No, it's not a Seattle thing. There's some Midwest areas that use anymore in this bizarre freaking way.
Well, it's sort of a double negative.
It's a double negative turned into a positive. Like anymore, yes, because anymore means we've stopped.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
and
they're
so
not selling
they mean it like they're
not selling as many
fewer nuggets anymore. So I have a friend of mine that was my roommate that would always say this. Not the nuggets thing, but any kind of expression like this, he would always tack on anymore.
Do you want to say the name?
I'm not going to say it was Dean. I wouldn't say that in the public podcast.
Is he from the Midwest?
I don't know, but
he looks like it from.
But it was always driving me nuts. And then I looked it up recently.
I'm playing fewer World of Warcraft anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then I looked it up recently, and I realized that it actually isn't just one or two people. There's a phenomenon.
Yeah. There are several dialects within English and even in the United States, and when you hear people say certain things, it's going to bug you.
Yeah, people are talking correctly less anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's not a matter of correct or incorrect. It's a matter of
Can I make a word up that's like correct, but it's Bertorect? And it's Bertorect if I think it's right.
Yeah. Well, my gripe has to do with Skype. Skype came on the scene, 15 years ago or something, 20 years ago. I don't know,
a long time ago.
Whenever it was. It was the first major online voice phone service that became like ubiquitous. It was the one place anyone went.
And you could video chat.
Yeah, and then they started adding video chat, and then it just became like the go-to video conferencing.
It changed my life with my relatives in Colombia.
Right. People, you could video chat for free with anyone in the world. And it was this wonderful thing. And I remember that it being fairly easy to use, or at least easy enough that I don't remember being frustrated with it back in the day.
Right.
And I know computers, I know software, I'm one of those people that people come to when they need help.
Troubleshooting.
When they need help. When I really need help, I go to you. Although you probably don't know necessarily more about software, but you know more about hardware. But today you don't really need help with hardware anymore. Yeah. I bet 10 years ago, if someone had a problem with their video card, you would step in. Today, hardware is pretty stable.
And actually, I know way less about hardware these days.
Oh, okay. But anyway, so Skype more recently has been driving me crazy. Yeah.
No question.
I'm just trying to interface with the user interface. I'm trying to figure out where to make a call, or how do I, someone will be trying to call me and I'll try to make it so the only time I use Skype is for either recording podcast. It's very rare.
Right.
So it's not like I'm super familiar with the interface, but again, 10 years ago, I wasn't.
You shouldn't have to be. Right?
I wasn't. It should be a simple process, and it's not like it's a small organization like Craigslist. Skype is a massive organization that was bought by Microsoft.
Yep.
And from what I can tell, Microsoft wanted to change it into like a social media platform.
Oh my God, man! So I cannot empathize enough with you because, as I was saying, when Skype first came out. Actually, not when it first came out, when it added video, this really changed my life, because think about me being able to see most of my family only every few years for a couple weeks, right? And I mean, when I say most of my family, I don't mean like my distant relatives. I mean my father, my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, my best friends growing up, all these people. I'd be like, hey, I'm here. I know it's been 4 years. How long are you here? Well, 2 weeks. Nice to see you. Bye. That was it, right? And all of a sudden, this thing comes out, and I can talk with my grandparents and my father.
And your grandparents can figure out how to use it.
Yes.
Because it's not too hard.
Yes. And to be fair, what I first did is I bought my grandma a computer. I downloaded Skype. I got it up, and it was fine. Well, I won't name names, but it was acquired by certain companies.
By Microsoft.
I don't know who it is, but whatever.
How long ago was that?
It was, coincidentally, I'm sure it has nothing to do with this, but right around the time in I think it was 2009 or something, where my life became a living hell with Skype. Because you know what happened is I went from, we would call, hey, how's it going? One day, I'm like, hi, hey, Grandma. Wait, I can't see you. Oh. What do? I'm like, well, do you see the little video button? There's like a little rectangle with like a little triangle, like the video button. No, I don't see that. I'm like, but it's right there at the top. Do you see it? No, I don't see that. Well, it turns out that the UI was not the same, because they would roll out different updates and they would change the UI all over the place.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah. And so we would spend forever. It was so bad that there were times where I'd be like, well, I'll call my cousin and see if he can come over and figure it out. And we would go without talking for weeks.
It is such a simple thing. You have three functions. Three. You could say 4. You have video, you have audio, and you have your contact list. Yep. And you could add a fourth with a
little message. Shoot a little message.
Which is messaging. Yeah. And really, you don't need the fucking messaging. You don't need that. You know what I mean? Like, people can email each other. They don't need Skype. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, you got video, you've got audio, and you've got your contact list. That's all you need.
Right.
And they somehow, Microsoft gets their hands on it, and they completely F it up. And the only thing I can think of is that the Microsoft bureaucracy and the idiots in, you give this to a smart whippersnapper 25-year-old person, they would be able to say, hey, don't touch it. Keep it simple. Don't, what do people want from this? But you give it to the machine, and they're like, well, I've got to like prove my worth this year. I'm on the Skype team. And so I've got to come up with something new.
New stuff.
Something creative.
New interface. change the look.
Yeah, I'm rolling out this new thing. I can just imagine the Microsoft developers, giving a speech to some completely out of touch vice president of some kind, and they're just, being in Seattle, I know the culture, right?
Well, it gets worse because then the vice president might say, "Well, but what if you added all these other ideas that I just threw at you?"
Right. So the conversation is stupid, right? But the developer and the vice president are talking. They're like, okay, look, Skype is the video audio platform of the world. And what if we could also change it into something fun?
Listen, Vice President Keanu, I got to stop you right there.
What if we could change it into something fun, and we could add, we could, not just when you call your grandma in Colombia, but when you wake up in the morning, like with Snapchat. Snapchat is the, most growingest app, and we're just throwing money away. Think of all the ads we could sell if we had people who would wake up and instead of Snapchat, they Skype little emojis back and forth, and then they try to change it into a. That's what it seems like they were trying to make it into, and in the process, they update the UI. I never understand it. It's like Facebook kind of stopped doing this more recently, but it's like why? You didn't add anything. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, so that's what it seems like. And now when I go to Skype, it's basically unusable.
It's sort of, imagine if you buy a book, right? And you're reading the book and you're enjoying it. There's a couple little nitpicks, a couple characters you don't care as much about, but overall you're enjoying the book. You're telling people about it. You're halfway through the book, and all of a sudden, like in the middle of reading a page, the words change, and you're like, wait, what just happened? And you're like, okay, I'll just go back a little bit. Maybe I was falling asleep. Yeah, wait, that's not the chapter I was in. And they fucking rearrange everything, change character names, move plot around.
Right.
And you're like, what the fuck happened?
Well, the thing to me is like a car, for example. They don't suddenly decide, we're going to put the stereo in the ceiling. Yeah. Or we're going to put the
steering wheel. That's so 1901.
I'm going to put the gas pedal on the left. You know what I mean? Like,
because what about lefties? Like, we're not being inclusive.
Yeah, like, or wouldn't it be fun if we did? It's like, just no, stop it. Like, everything should look the same.
Well, see, because it's funny. Some innovations, you could see the line and you could say, well, that made logical sense. For example, when you went from everything has to be a manual shift with an extra pedal to, well, what if we automated some of that for the user? And so, sure, it might be a little less fun for sporty people, but honestly, grandma will have an easier time, and almost everyone learning will have an easier time if we just make a thing. You don't have to press an extra pedal, and you just have a couple settings, forward, back. Okay, that sounds like a good improvement, right?
Well, and to use that analogy, there were probably several iterations or versions of automatic transition that came out around that time, and the one that evolved out of that was the best one.
Yeah.
And likewise, I'm fucking dumping Skype and I'm going to Zoom.
There you go.
Even though Zoom costs me money, it's like Zoom is a far better product. It works every single time. This isn't an ad for Zoom, but it has everything you want. Like, for example, with Skype, I would record my conversations with people for the podcast, and I had to buy another software package to do that. Skype, you can't just record in Skype.
I see.
Even though it would be so easy.
Right.
Zoom, it just has a button that says record. And it right there, just you want to record it, boom, record it.
Right.
No big deal. You can do, and it's so easy, and it has all the things that Skype. You can do messaging, but it's not trying to be Snapchat. And
it's focused.
And the UI, it's that's what they're trying to do. Now, 10 years from now, Facebook or Microsoft or Google will buy it, and it'll go to shit, and then there'll be something else that'll come out. Anyway, let's take a break. What do you say, Berto?
Let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. Our live show is coming up August 11, 2018. August 11, Saturday, August 11, 2018. I don't know exactly where it's going to be yet because logistically, I'm trying to figure out what to do. I might just have it at Antioch again, actually.
This is our 10-year anniversary.
Right. So it's our 10-year anniversary.
Right.
And we're gonna play games. We're gonna give away swag. And Berto and I will talk about things that, I don't know, personal things. We don't use
personal things.
We don't record it because I don't think it translates very well. It's mainly a visual audio medium, interactive.
It gives you an incentive to be there.
Right.
And maybe this time we'll change, you know, because we told some personal stories before. Maybe we'll change our stories. Like we come from different cities. We have different backgrounds.
And we'll take pictures afterwards and we'll go out afterwards and we'll interact afterwards.
Yes.
And what I was thinking was, and let me introduce this to you, Berto, now, is we should have something really unique as a swag gift to give away for some contest winner who comes. You know, something that's really unique, you know? Like
that'd be awesome.
One of a kind item of some kind. Yeah. I don't know what that would be. Like,
no, we'll have to brainstorm.
Your underwear, maybe.
You know, it's funny. I was gonna go there, but I thought, no, that's so crude. I'm not gonna say that.
Okay, so another email from a patron. Patron Alexander writes in, what is the psychology behind people nitpicking you on YouTube? People nitpicking you on YouTube. I'm curious, why are people like this? It happened to me too. I was nitpicked over small details at my job. Why is that?
Well, technically, they weren't nitpicking over small details. They were nitpicking small details.
I don't get it.
I'm just being nitpicky.
Oh, wow, meta. What are they trying to achieve? That's what patron Alexander is asking. So just to give context, how this goes, you know, most of our listeners aren't on YouTube. You know, most listen on their phones and this kind of thing. But just to give, you know, I post our episodes on YouTube because some people, that's the way they access our podcast, which is weird to me. It also is an easy way to share because you can email the episodes if you know, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, and I only did it because actually a student of mine was having trouble navigating through, like picking different timestamps while she was listening on her computer. Because I would normally upload in this other widget kind of situation, and I was like, well, YouTube actually makes it easier. So so this was like 5-6 years ago. That's the only reason why it was on YouTube. She was just like, it just makes it easier to navigate. Because up until then, I was like, well, why would it be on YouTube? Because it's not a video thing anyway. But you know, thousands of people have found us through YouTube. But anyway, so to give a caveat about, or to give an explanation about this, it's like, you know, we'll make an episode, or I'll make an episode in which we do a deep dive on something that people are nerdy about, like Michael Jackson, Marlon Brando, Harry Potter, this kind of thing. And at the beginning, I always give a caveat that it's like, look, I'm not an expert. And
your PhD is not in these topics? And
I do an episode every 2 days, so I only have a couple days really to prepare. Plus, this isn't like the core reason why I make this podcast, you know? Like if I'm going to do a month of research, it's going to be with something in psychology, you know? Yeah. And so I say that. So I'm going to get stuff wrong, you know? And I don't want to fucking hear it about if it's a small detail. If I get something massively wrong, you know, like... Yeah. It's not Michael Jackson. It's Michael Jackson or something.
Isn't it, Jakes? Yeah. But you warn up front, and you can just not listen to that episode.
Yeah, right. And so I tell people, and then I tell people explicitly, I don't even want to hear it. So keep it to yourself. And then we talk
to yourself.
And then we talk for 2 or 3 hours about a topic, and we talk about probably 500 to 1,000 details that could be wrong or right, and we get 99.9% of the things right.
And so we get the ending of a major book series wrong, but you know.
Well, it wasn't like we got the Harry Potter thing wrong. We were like, we couldn't remember what it was.
Well, and by the way, because I definitely looked it up afterwards, part of the reason I was so confused is because the movie is very different in this scene than the book. A very, very different scene. And it's different location, different sequence of what happens and all these things. So I was actually kind of mishmashing things I remembered, and it's been so long and blah, blah, blah.
Right, but it doesn't matter. We can, you know, it wasn't like we were like, I know the answers, and everyone else is stupid.
Yeah, it's not like we were saying what the books could have been written like.
Yeah. Anyway, so we talk for a couple hours. We give many details. We give it our best shot. And then you look at YouTube, and the thumbs up are massively more than the thumbs
right.
up. You know, like we'll get 100 thumbs up and like 5 thumbs down or something. But 95% of the comments are these super nitpicky comments.
Right.
You know, like, you got this tiny detail wrong. They won't say that, but you know, that's all it'll say. So presumably listen to us talking for 3 hours about something. And then the only thing they say at the bottom is, you're an idiot. You know, this was wrong, and you need to do your research.
Yeah.
Or you need to read a book, or
read a book,
or you call yourself a psychologist. That's a great one. It's like, yeah, knowing all the details about Michael Jackson is a prerequisite.
Wait, so you mean I could just call myself a psychologist? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
You just call yourself whatever you want?
Well, as long as you know everything about everything.
Wow.
So anyway, and that's what Patron Alexander is talking about. So, Berto, why do people do this?
Well, I feel like, having been guilty of this at times in my life, part of it is that when you see someone talking about something you really care about, there's an aspect that you feel a little jealousy that you're not included in the conversation, especially if you really identify with that thing, because you're like, I know everything about this. And then you're hearing someone else talk about it, and you're like, oh gosh darn it, I want in, but wait, what did they just say? Oh my God, they're talking about it. I don't get to be part of the conversation, and yet they're getting everything wrong, even though it's not everything, right? And so I think that that's a little bit of it, is the FOMO, and then that turns into, well, then I hate this. I hate it.
See, that I don't get. Like, if you're listening for 2 hours, now, undoubtedly there are thousands or hundreds of people who listen like 5 minutes in and go, I hate this shit, I'm turning it off. Which, great, you know what I mean? But you listen to the whole thing, and then the only thing you have to say is something negative. What it makes it look like to me is they're only listening to find one thing wrong so they can attack me. You know what I mean? Now, and some people do this, which is fine. I'm not against negative criticism. I love constructive criticism. But there's something to be said about, like, hey, love the podcast, you got this thing wrong. Yeah. Or loved this episode, or liked this episode enough to listen, but you got this one thing wrong, just to let you know. And some people will do that, and I don't have a problem with that at all.
Right.
If you exhibit social skills,
or even like, hey, I totally disagree with your conclusions about this one thing. Here's why.
And here's why. Vast majority of people on YouTube don't do that. And you know, when people do disagree with me, they're like, "You're an idiot. Feminism isn't real," or something. And the times where I reach out and I'm like, "Okay, what did I say in the episode?
Edumacate
that you disagree with, or please educate me."
Yeah.
Nothing. Or they'll just be like, "Well, you're just a cuck idiot," or something. And I'm like, you know, and you know, I used to think these people were trolls, that they're just trying to be funny, but the way they're either really good at acting like real people, or I don't know if many of these people are actually trolls.
They just really feel this way. They don't know how to express it.
Yeah.
And they just say, ugh.
So speculation for me is that some of them are trolling, but I don't think many are. I think some people are easily triggered. And I think your explanation actually is very interesting. It's like this FOMO, or this feeling of like, I want to be included, and then that sort of frustration.
Ask my opinion. You didn't ask me.
Right, because I always figure if they were sitting in the room with us, they'd be like, "Oh no, you got that thing. You got that thing wrong," and they would at least give us some body language that they weren't completely disgusted the entire time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you leave, the only thing you say. But so in preparation to answer Patron Alexander's question, I actually looked on YouTube, various other channels, to see what their comments were like.
Yeah.
And it's just a culture on YouTube.
It is. It really is.
A culture of kind of one-liners. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's a culture of lack of social skills, essentially. Yeah. People will just like blurt out everyone's trying to be funny or smart, or essentially it's a very immature way of communicating.
Well, dude, I mean, so like, this is the dark side of the way I interact on Facebook a lot, right? Because when someone posts something funny or a meme or something, usually I want to get in on the action. So I reply to that thing with some pun or some twist on the joke or something like this. The difference here is I don't say, you're an idiot for posting this. The following is funnier, right? Or something. I just say whatever I'm going to say. And there is a bit of a like, well, don't forget about me. I'm funny too, right?
Right.
And that part, like, I can relate to. It's just the difference is when it's so aggressive and mean and like, you know, imagine if someone posts a meme on Facebook and you're like, oh man, I wanted to post that meme. And so you put a comment like, you're illiterate and an idiot and I wish you would die.
Right. So I think some people are sadistic. They actually they get pleasure by hurting other people's feelings. And the internet is a very convenient place for them.
Yeah.
You know, I also think some people might even be intoxicated, you know, which is something I didn't think about until I started thinking about why would people do this. I think that, you know, you think about how many people are drunk in a given moment.
Oh, that's interesting.
And how many of those people are on the internet at the time, you know?
Right.
And how many of those people can't really think straight as they're commenting, you know what I mean?
That'd be a fascinating study, correlating percentages of negative comments on social media with like substances.
Yeah. So so just to give you, this is a little maybe personal, but so I wake up in the morning and I have I have sort of a podcast routine, you know.
Okay.
I got a podcast routine, and part of it is opening a tab that displays the different comments on YouTube.
Okay.
And so it will. It's always a negative part of my morning, essentially.
Oh, weird.
I check emails from patrons. I check the Patreon account, the Facebook account. All of that is always great.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad. Very rarely there's something that will bother me in that. People will criticize me, but it'll be like measured and with social skills.
Yeah.
The YouTube, the comments are almost always negative. Every once in a while, like we have Sunny Pie and we have a couple other Silent Violet. We have a couple other people that comment a lot that always they seem like they're patrons, you know, or maybe they are, and they just have social skills.
There's a positive vibe.
Yeah, yeah, or just a social. You know, they might have something negative to say, but it's all with. It doesn't ruin my morning. But I spend a good amount of time, and it always sort of trips me up because I'm like, should I respond? Do I delete it?
Right.
Do I report them? Do I just ignore it? Like, it really gets in my head every morning. You know what I mean? And so my question to you is, Berto, should I just turn off comments on YouTube? Because I was trying to think of what I get out of about any of the comments.
You know, those marketers, they want you to watch those comments because they get clicks and ads.
And the only thing that I get out of the comments are the few people who are nice or at least sane or social skilled enough to provide, you know, like readable comments to me. And to me, I'm like, if I did turn off the comments, I would tell all of them, just email me.
Yeah.
If you have an email, just or go to Facebook and comment, or you know, like it. I know it's a little more of an ordeal to email me than it is to comment.
Yeah.
And maybe you only send an email 1 out of every 10 times you would have commented. But to me, I almost think that would be a totally valid trade-off.
My take on it is I wouldn't personally turn them off, but I would certainly follow the kind of like the news advice with it a bit, which is just like don't spend time with it too much. Which I know that you're trying to find like the good comments, the one you should answer. So that's the trade-off. But I mean, taking a think, like the thought is,
well, it's either that or I don't look ever. Like I never look at the Facebook fan page.
Right.
Because I just want that to be a free space. And I don't have any problem. I just never look. And occasionally people will tag me on that page. I won't look. So just so you fans out there, if you tag me on the fan page, I don't look. It's just like you just tagged me on something. I have a policy that I don't look at, even though I get a notification. So I don't have a problem not looking. So that's the alternative is I don't look at the YouTube comments
maybe we
at
can
all.
make an announcement saying like, look, feel free to leave your comments. But the comments we will look at are emails.
But what's the purpose? Because 99% of the good comments are directly geared towards you and me. They're trying to communicate something to us. They're not trying to communicate something to the world.
Sure, sure.
You know what I mean? So to me, it's like, now, I'm only 30%, thinking about turning off the comments. But as I talk about it right now, I'm thinking, I don't know, like because I just have to think like, this is my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This isn't I'm not a corporation.
Yeah.
Like you show up at my house and we record these podcasts. And, you go home and I send you comments or emails and stuff that I think you'd be interested in. But you just go on with your life.
Yep.
This podcast is a daily, throughout the day thing for me, in terms of like thinking about it and responding to emails and everything. And so for me, the YouTube comments are a net negative.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, if I turn it off, I get a net positive, and who in the community loses?
Yeah.
And all the trolls lose, and the people without social skills lose, and then the very few people that are on YouTube who comment more regularly, or the one-off person who provides something nice to say, they lose out. And what I would just have to say is like, well, just email me or comment on Facebook or something.
I guess I'm a little biased against it because the channels that I see that don't have comments enabled are usually things like a flat earth poster or someone that's a creation literalist or a Bible literalist. And I know why they've disabled comments. Whereas...
So it looks bad.
Yeah, because a lot of the channels that get... Because... You're not wrong. Like almost every single channel I subscribe to, when I look at the videos, first of all, even the most positive videos that got like 35,000 likes, there'll still be like 100 or 200 dislikes. And then you look through the comments, and there's still some bad negative comments in there. And these are popular channels.
What my guess is that these popular channels have moderators who don't take it personally, and
that's probably right.
And they're an employee or some producer or something, and they just sort of go through it and figure out what to do with it. I am a corporation of one.
Yeah,
I'm the only one. Right. I don't have anyone who does anything for me, and so I'm just like, I don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like, for example, Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, she's talked about this a bit in the past where...
God, can you imagine the stuff she gets?
Well, exactly. So she gets some really serious stuff. Right?
I can't imagine what she gets.
And all of those, I mean, Jank also gets, they get death threats.
But she...
Yeah. And so she's talked about how, she has to let it roll off her back like water, But it is tough.
You can't. I mean, it's definitely easier for me now, for sure. I mean, the first few times this happened, the first few times I was like, oh my God, someone's commenting. This is awesome. But, what was like, I think it was the Snape episode or the Michael Jackson or the Snape episode. I did a lot of prep for both those episodes, or at least, I nerded out for a few days. And I had a lot of fun. Right. And I felt like, I learned something in the prep. I felt like I learned something talking to you.
Sure.
I enjoyed making the episodes. And I thought, there's a lot of people interested in Michael Jackson, a lot of people interested in Snape. And so I wake up in the morning after it's posted, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what people have to say about it. And you just get like this litany on YouTube that's negative. And it's all this stupid nitpick stuff. It's not like you guys have... It's not like anything valid. It's just like, they focused like with the Michael Jackson thing. Do you know what they focused in on?
What?
They focused in on, we tried to summarize basically his entire life.
Did they focus on his 90s career or his 2000s career?
No, they focused on his skin condition.
Oh, I see.
In that episode, if I remember right, we talked about how it's hard to know.
Right.
We didn't say he didn't have a skin condition.
Or he did. Or whatever.
We just said, well, at the very least, we know that he suffered from trauma and he had an issue with, how how he looked.
Yeah.
Because, his skin condition wasn't the only thing that he altered,
Right.
if he altered anything.
Right.
And so people, like countless people, were just like, in the autopsy report, it said that he had,
Vitiligo.
Yeah. And you call yourself a psychologist? And it's like, you spend all that time and energy, you get excited, and I'm not Alex Jones. I'm not trying to get people angry. And, I'm a human being. I put myself out there, and I could not do it. I could just not do episodes on Michael Jackson. I could stick to my wheelhouse. You know what I mean?
You know what's weird? Of all the places where, because I don't really see the emails except the ones you forward me, but I do actually check the YouTube comments because it's the thing that's easy for me to check.
Well, I delete a lot of the stupid ones.
That's fair. But like basically whenever I get the alert that a new episode has been posted, I will open it because YouTube is my platform. That's what I use. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't follow Instagram. I don't follow Twitter, but I am obsessed on YouTube. I'm always looking.
So if you
YouTube.
Listen to our podcast, you listen on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I have several.
Like on your phone?
Yeah. Well, but with my in-ears. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And basically, as soon as I get the alert that a podcast has been posted, or as soon as I see it on my feed, I always open them up and I check, and I always like it using my account, my Gmail account, and I always look at the comments.
Interesting.
And sometimes I reply in the comments.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you have a alias that you have on?
It's certainly not Umberto. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Like you would have to reverse engineer it somehow, which I guess you could, but. It's
Might I have seen your comments or replies and not known it was you?
Yeah, but I mean, I think you know my email, but
yeah,
you might have.
Well,
but
you must not do it very often then, because
I do it on some episodes. So like, I probably wouldn't do it on some of the psychology ones that you do because I might not know enough to comment on that.
Yeah, but still, you might not. You must anyway.
But the point is, those are the comments I do read. Not all of them, but I do tend to scan through them. And granted, you might delete some of the worst ones, so maybe I never get to those. But I have seen some bad ones. I guess for me, maybe because of my years of 4chan training and YouTube training in general, I just don't take it seriously. But
well, I don't either. I don't want to act like I do.
Yeah.
But it's a tiny bit of negativity in my life.
I can understand that.
I don't want.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't, and I don't need it.
Yeah.
And the only thing I get from having to get that little bit of negativity are the handful of YouTube loyalists that comment that I enjoy interacting with.
Yeah.
And we're talking about literally like 5 people. You know what I mean?
And you know, one thing that's also happened to me recently and fairly recently, this last year, increasingly so, is that I just keep hitting walls trying to provide reason. I used quotes there in Facebook posts, and I keep hitting walls, and I've started to realize that it's probably not worth my time, and that actually just to ignore it, even though it feels like I should jump in. And what I'm talking about is, did I use this example the other day? How someone posted a picture, someone I know. So it's not a direct relative, but it's someone I know's relative. They post all these memes that they find on all these websites that are very, very purposely trying to deceive. And they post this picture of a young, like 16-year-old, in a Nazi uniform. And it's a black and white photo. It's a Nazi uniform. And it says, "Meet George Soros." And when he was, he was in the Hitler Youth, he helped round up Jews, and he described this time as, quote, some of the best time of his life. And I sit there and I'm looking at that, I'm like, and I have done very, 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 almost zero research on George Soros, but I look at that and I'm like, I have a feeling there's very little truth to this post. And in 1 second, I just type the name Soros in a search, and in 1 second, I'm able to find everything is wrong with this. For example, his last name is not Soros. That is the name they adopted. His last name is, I forgot the name, but it's a Jewish last name. They are a Jewish family. They had to change their name when Hungary was invaded because they didn't want to get rounded up and killed. Yeah. They had to pretend to be Catholic. He, like all youth of the time, got forcefully conscripted and then had to go into hiding because he didn't want to do the jobs they wanted him to do. His dad helped get Jews out of Hungary.
Do you want to
and save
explain
them.
to the listeners who George Soros is?
Yeah, he's a billionaire that some in the extreme right always blame for funding everything and the New World Order and the demise of the world. He's a billionaire in Europe that is somewhat a progressive thinker, but he's a billionaire. He's a capitalist. He's made tons of money investing money. Anyways, and the point is that his father helped Jews escape from Hungary, and Soros, in this book that was written about him, described that as the proudest, as the happiest time of his life because how proud he was of his father. That's the quote they were misusing. And the kicker is that picture they put, that wasn't George Soros at all. It was some other random SS officer who was convicted in Nuremberg for like 200 deaths. That's the post. So you know what? I put all those facts on the post. I said, just so you know, I understand you don't like Soros. I understand you don't like the politics, but just so you know, here's everything that's wrong with this. I got no reply.
Yeah.
And no, like, well,
well,
okay,
that's actually that's probably the best response you could have got.
Maybe, yeah.
They're like, oh, I guess I'm wrong.
Maybe the post was not removed.
But maybe that's another sign. It's like, oh, well, I guess I deserve to have this comment. You know, I'm not, you know.
I don't know, but the point is that's one micro example.
If I saw that on Facebook, which I do occasionally see stuff like that, I
have gone to the point where
I just figure people are welcome to their ignorance, honestly.
Yeah, and that's it. I've like, you know what? I sadly had this like idea that through dialectic we could learn from each other, and some people are not ready for that. Some people don't have that skill. Some people are not interested in that.
But even if they're like, oh, you're right, that's not going to change the way they think about things.
And so online, that's the problem. And then YouTube's worse because they're anonymous. They can say whatever they want.
And for whatever reason, the average YouTube commenter is immature or sadistic or trolling.
Yeah.
Or doesn't understand how to comment in a you know, or something. You know?
YouTube skews quite young, right? Like the top YouTube channels appeal to the youths.
So I don't know how accurate it is, but YouTube actually keeps track of demographics. They somehow know, at least for some of their viewing statistics, like the age and that kind of thing. I don't know how they know that, because does our you know,
well, they know who you are because you log in with their Google account.
But do they know my age?
Well, they can surmise that from other.
Yeah, but is that a part of my account? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, from the looks of the demographics, we have older, you know, mostly older people. Not older, but like, you know, 35 years old.
Oh, geezers.
But anyway, the people who comment, I think, are because, you know, like, I don't think I've ever commented on a YouTube thing, and that's my go-to thing now. Like,
I definitely have commented.
I went to Reddit, and like now I'm primarily like YouTube, like you know, Saturday Night Live clips and stuff. Anyway.
Well, actually, but so something to keep in mind. Like, I rarely comment, but when I have commented, it's usually to give constructive criticism to something I really like.
Did you have social skills while you did it?
I did. Right, but that's my point is I rarely will say, wow, what a great episode. Thank you. Right? And I think that not enough people do positive reinforcement.
Which, you know, anyway, so you're saying don't disable the comments.
I would not. But
what about for some episodes? Like for episodes,
maybe the most controversial ones, yeah.
Episodes I predict that will.
Maybe it's just it will sadly.
Well, what's funny is like
the fuel for
our episode on Alex Jones, the psychology of Alex Jones. Yeah. Almost no comments bother me.
Interesting.
Our episode on Michael Jackson, 90% of the comments bother me. Yeah, it's bizarre. Like we'll do an episode on, you know, Trump or something, and none of the comments will bother. My episode on Marlon Brando that I made like 2 years ago still gets like ridiculous comments from people.
I wonder if it's that because the Trump and was the other example you said that Alex Jones. Those two have political like affiliation in common, but Marlon Brando and Michael Jackson are just a preference thing, right? Or like you're liking Michael Jackson or liking Marlon Brando probably has a lot less to do with your political leaning,
Right.
right? So I wonder if it's just like, you know, the ones that are a little more, our demographic that listens to us might be more uniform politically, but not uniform artistically or whatever it is, you know.
I guess.
I don't
Well, honestly, my impression are these negative comments are not from regular listeners.
I see.
These are
okay.
These are one-timers,
Well-
especially with their attitude, because it's
Yeah.
like, wow, you must not be. I mean, sometimes people will leave these negative comments where it's undeniable that they don't know they don't listen to this podcast because they don't know who we are.
Yeah.
Or they'll ask a question like, "Is that guy a real therapist or something?" Or, you know.
One perspective though could be that because those are the kind of episodes that do broaden the listenership,
Right.
And it could be that at least by leaving their comment, it's just enough of a release valve so that it just ends there, as opposed to like getting angry at our channel and then maybe if you disable comments in one, they'll go to the next one and double comment because you disabled comments.
I can't imagine I can't imagine them putting that much effort. You know what I mean? But anyway, so you're saying don't do it.
That'd be my recommendation.
All right. Well, that was a train wreck of an episode. I didn't expect us to just basically complain the entire time.
Gripe.
Well, it does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. Please take care of yourself because
you deserve to comment.